What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and it's time to keep our recaps going from Week 5 with the ACC. We'll do the Big 12 and the Pac-12 tomorrow. We've already done the SEC and Big 10 today if you want to go check those videos out if you missed them. So let's get into the games from this past week. How about the Friday night game, Miami at Duke? I thought this game was going to be really good. I thought it was going to be a pretty close game, but it turned out not to be that way. It felt like, most of the game Duke was going to kind of hang around, but in the end, Miami just pulls away. And Miami really looks like one of the better teams in college football right now. Knew the defense was going to be good, but the offense is really going pretty well right now with Rozier at quarterback. So I've been very impressed. Mark Walton at running back, very versatile, and he brings a lot to this offense. Mon Richards at receiver. So yeah, this team has a lot of weapons. They got a quarterback that's doing a good job getting the ball to these playmakers, and they're making the most of it. So yeah, I think Miami is a real contender in the ACC. Took us a little bit of time because they didn't, this is only their third game of the year. So now that we've finally seen what they can do, yeah, this is a very dangerous team. Total yards in this game is pretty close. Miami 409, Duke 349. The rushing game was pretty close as well. Just across the board, it was a fairly close game. A couple of turnovers for Duke. They really struggled on third down, 5 of 19. Some big plays from Miami, and that turned out to be the difference. So I think that the game was a little bit closer than the score would say, 31-6. I think it was, a little bit closer than that. But Duke definitely just not on the same level as Miami. Miami looks to be one of those elite teams. You got Miami, you got Virginia Tech, Clemson, Louisville, NC State, and then maybe throw in Georgia Tech, maybe Florida State. We need to see a little bit more out of them. But those seem to be the elite teams in the ACC right now. So how about the next game? We've got North Carolina and Georgia Tech. Yeah, that's the next game we got coming up here. And this game was never close. Georgia Tech dominant. They rushed for 403 yards, which they do that to a lot of people. But they held this North Carolina offense to 247 yards. This North Carolina offense has been moving the ball. They haven't been good at all on defense, but the offense at least had been doing pretty good for them. They were just 2 of 12 on third downs. Only ran the ball for 106 yards, passed for 141, 6 penalties for 60 yards. So it was just not a good day for the North Carolina offense. Both teams had two turnovers in this game. As Georgia Tech, had maybe won that turnover battle, this one could have gotten ugly even earlier. And this Georgia Tech team is a serious contender. We knew the triple option would be there. Taquan Marshall has done an excellent job at quarterback for them. The defense, though, is playing really well. I mean, I'm telling you, this is a good North Carolina offense. They've been putting up a lot of points, a lot of yards throughout this season, but they held them to 7 points. I mean, that is a very good effort, and I've been seeing it all year. They get a good push to the defensive line, and they're a serious contender, I'm telling you. Virginia Tech and Miami better watch out, because do not sleep on Georgia Tech. I know they had that game against Tennessee. Again, they really should have won, but had a couple of turnovers late in the game. Tennessee capitalized. They made some plays. They won that game. But I think I came away from that game thinking that Georgia Tech was the better team, and that has proven to be true so far this season. And they look very good, and we'll see if they can keep it going. All right, so how about the next game? We had, a cupcake game. It was Pitt hosting Rice, and they win this one 42-10, not close at all. Second win of the season for Pitt. They've beaten Rice and Youngstown State, so yeah, not all that great. They put up 479 yards of total offense in this one, so they got that going a little bit. The defense played pretty well. They got 3 turnovers, so I wouldn't read too much into this. Pitt is still not a good team, and they're probably not going to win many more games this season. They may not win any in the ACC. So yeah, not much to say about that one. But at least they did take care of business and win that one easily. How about Syracuse at NC State? Syracuse hung around in this game. I was a little surprised at how well they played. They actually were right up there. Total yards, NC State 462, Syracuse 444. They passed for 385 yards. And this is a pretty good NC State defense. They couldn't really capitalize, though, on some opportunities. They had 12 penalties. They had a turnover. NC State did not have a turnover. So some sloppy plays, some penalties, the turnover, things like that are really what cost Syracuse. Or they may have a chance to win this game, and they still had a chance. I mean, they lost for 1 possession. But this was a good football game. And NC State, you have to wonder, were they looking ahead a little bit to Louisville coming in? I don't know. On third downs, NC State 3 for 12. That's not going to get it done. Luckily, they had some big plays and things for them to get 33 points. And at the end of the day, a win is a win. It's a conference win, and you move on to that big game against Louisville. And that one's going to be coming up Thursday night. And it's going to be a fun one. I'm really looking forward to it. Eric Dungey, though, very underrated quarterback for Syracuse. Again, he put up big numbers in this one. And that offense, at least for Syracuse, has looked good so far this season. All right, moving right along to Boston College hosting Central Michigan. Pretty good Central Michigan team, so this was a good effort for Boston College to beat them 27-8. The game, if you look at the yardage, was actually pretty close, 309 to 296. The turnovers, there was a lot in this game, 3 for Central Michigan, 2 for Boston College. Boston College got the run game going, though, 224 rushing yards in this game, and that really proved to be the difference as they won a pretty easy game. Louisville against Murray State, not a whole lot to say about this game. 55-10, Lamar Jackson does his thing. Louisville wins. They're going to get ready for that game against NC State. They actually outgained Murray State 676 to 80. So that was, that's complete domination right there. First downs, 38 for Louisville, 5 for Murray State. Yeah, big time blowout here in this one. All right, how about this one? Florida State at Wake Forest. This was a very good game, maybe one of the best games of the weekend. Florida State, I really, as this game got going, I thought Wake Forest might pull off the upset. It felt like Wake Forest was the better team, honestly. They outgained them 367 to 270. They passed for 271 yards, but only ran for 96. Florida State passed for 121, ran for 149. That rushing game for Florida State, I think, was the difference in this one. And then they got one more turnover. One turnover for Florida State. Wake Forest had 2. Both teams bad on third downs. 4 for 15 for Florida State, 4 for 14 for Wake Forest. So, yeah, the defenses played well in this one. Florida State just made some plays late in the game. They hit that big touchdown pass, less than a minute to go. That was the game winner. So, this was a big one for the young freshman quarterback for the Seminoles. And we'll see if he can, build on this and get some momentum. They got some big games coming up. They got Miami coming up, and then they'll have Clemson as well. So very interesting to see what they do. Wake Forest, I think, still a very solid team. They're like a B-plus type team, I guess is the way to describe them. They're going to give you a good effort every week, but they may not be able to beat, the top dogs in the ACC. We'll see, though, going forward. I mean, that's just one loss. Don't count them out. They've already, won some pretty good games so far. We'll see, though, how they play moving ahead into more of these ACC games, but they definitely look like they could at least stay on the field there with a pretty solid Florida State team. All right, the game of the weekend here, Clemson at Virginia Tech. Oh, this one, it was just more of the same with Clemson. It really was. They just, they won it easily again. The total yards in this game, though, Virginia Tech 342 yards. That is a surprise, and they held Clemson to just 332. So what was the difference here? They won by 2 touchdowns. I think maybe it was 31-10 before that, if I remember correctly. So how did they win it so easily when Virginia Tech had more yards than them? So you look at the stats, you look at the third downs. Clemson 6 of 16, Virginia Tech 4 of 15. Not much difference there. You keep going down, you look at all the stats, and then you see it. Turnovers were the key in this one. Virginia Tech had 3, Clemson had 0. So if you go back and play this game again and Virginia Tech takes care of the football, maybe Clemson or maybe Virginia Tech can pull off this upset. They look like they were on the same level as a Clemson team. They really did, and I think this Virginia Tech team is very good, especially playing at home like this. They were going to bring a good effort, and you have to wonder now, Virginia Tech, are they the best team in the Coastal? Even though they lost this game, this one's really not going to hurt them that much. As long as they take care of business against Miami, and maybe Georgia Tech, can't forget Georgia Tech. But those seem to be the only 3 teams that are going to be contenders there in that division. Duke, I just don't think is quite up to that level. So Virginia Tech moving forward, again, can they beat Miami? That's what it's going to come down to. I really think it is. That Virginia Tech-Miami game is going to be huge. If Miami loses to Florida State, it really doesn't matter. Again, even if they both have one loss when they play each other, assuming they beat Georgia Tech, then yeah, Virginia Tech versus Miami. Clemson looks like they're going to roll. They still have NC State, and they still have Florida State. Now, those will be tough challenges for them. But the worst of their schedule is already behind them. They've already beaten Auburn. They've already beaten Louisville. They've beaten Virginia Tech here on the road. So it looks like Clemson is probably going to cruise and have an undefeated regular season, if I had to guess. And then they'll get either Virginia Tech again, or maybe Miami, or maybe even Georgia Tech in that ACC championship. But if I was betting on one team to get to the playoffs right now, I'd probably go with Clemson. Yeah, I probably would. Alabama will have Auburn and potentially Georgia in the SEC championship. So their road is a little bit tougher, I think. Clemson's road is looking pretty good. Again, they got to get by NC State, and they get Florida State at home. Blackman, freshman quarterback, he's not going to be able to handle that Clemson crowd and that defense. So I do think Clemson will win that one pretty easily. So, yeah, there you go. That's Week 5 in the ACC. We're going to move ahead to Week 6 coming up in a couple of days. We'll have our preview for that. Also, we'll have our recaps for the Big 12 and the Pac-12 tomorrow. So make sure you come back and check that out. But that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports YouTube channel.